Welcome to the What Sold podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm once again here with my friend Matt, who is rocking the awesome Kenny Rogers t-shirt today. We
Yes.
recently talked about our love of t-shirts, and he referenced Kenny, who, by the way, Kenny Rogers is I shouldn't say he's a misunderstood genius, but some of his stuff is still amazing, and people just like make fun of it because it was 70s and it was produced and it was Nashville. But Kenny Rogers is great.
K-Raj,
His chicken was good too, and gone but not forgotten. I love Kenny Rogers roasters.
I cannot say that I've had the pleasure of eating any of that chicken.
So
but
good.
Maybe I need to look for it now.
No, I think they're gone. I think they're out of business. That's the sad
okay,
part. Anyway, you
Well,
missed your
couldn't have been that
chance,
good.
buddy. You missed your chance.
No, so what I got today is I got a Rusty hat here. This is a nod to the Rusty channel. My friend Nikki got this little airbrush opportunity and made me a hat. And then of course the Kenny Rogers. So what you're looking, this is not just any Kenny Rogers T-shirt, Brandon. This is the 1983 Jovan tour T-shirt. I think that was like a deodorant or an aftershave brand or something like that in the the 83. So I was 2 years old. It kind of dates me there when this was made, but man, it's the single stitching, It's got the nice,
the piping on the sleeves.
The piping on
so
the
good.
sleeves. This is and it's just so comfortable. It's soft. I wear it to concerts all. It doesn't matter if I'm going to a hip hop concert. It doesn't matter if I'm going to what it is. People, I get looks. I get the nod, kind of like the respect nod.
Oh yeah,
So,
for sure, right? I mean, they're gonna be
fantastic.
like, that dude is rocking a Kenny Rogers because it does look like something like from the early '80s, especially with the piping on the sleeves.
It is, and on the back, if I'll turn here.
Joe
You can
Vaughn.
kind of see, yeah, there it is. I mean, it doesn't exactly have that. Some of the ones from that era, like the '84, the next year, they have like the tour, actual, the tour, the tour itself on the back, the locations and the dates
Right.
and stuff. This doesn't have that, but it fits nicely. It's a throwback. So t-shirts.
Yeah. Do you wear it fairly regularly?
I would not say fairly regularly. I could count on probably half a dozen times a year, maybe less than that.
Yeah, you gotta respect
I wear
that,
to some
dude.
concerts, and I have a dudes weekend that I get together with some guys I grew up with once a year, and it always comes out during that weekend because they have their own old school T-shirts as well. We like to
Okay,
crack
good.
them out.
Because I don't want it to get worn out. It's like a fine wine. You want it to last.
This
so
thing will probably outlast me. I hope it does. I'll
Made out
bequeath
of
it in my will.
Kevlar, made out of Kevlar thread. All right. So Matt, what are we going to be talking about today on the What Sold podcast? First off, I did want to say that I can't remember on our last show we talked about repairing stuff. If you talked about something you had sold, and this is the What Sold podcast. So I do
Indeed.
want to hold you accountable to what sold in the last week.
Well, I have anywhere from 20 or 30 items to maybe 50 items that sell each week. So I have a lot. I'm trying for the purposes of this podcast to not every week be like, I sold some more jewelry. I sell the
Right.
same types of items all the time. I will say though that I've got 2 or 3 of these instruments listed because I was talking about a mandolin that I'm repairing. I did sell the guitar. It was like maybe 2 weeks ago for $500. I only paid $200 for it. I don't have it to show today because it's already shipped out. But
Oh, nice.
kind of going in line with things, I did do a little bit of repair work on that. I feel like I get really good deals when I buy instruments that have minor damage or have been heavily worn, or maybe they need a component replaced. I over time, as I've done that kind of stuff, I sort of harvest little things here and there, and I'll hold them back for when I find things in the future that need them. So yeah, I mean, but I have on a pile on the floor here. I probably have 20 things that have sold that are going out, ranging from tools to jewelry, gold jewelry, some paper.
You did just
ephemera.
sell my watch too, which is very exciting.
I did. Yeah. I got that puppy thrown up there.
Yeah,
Just took
so-
one auction cycle. Boom.
Really? That's all it
Yeah.
took?
That's it, man.
Yeah, well, I one of the perks of working with Matt is that I can sometimes give him stuff that I have. And I had a watch that it's sort of like for all you, it kind of ties into what we're doing too, because my wife was like, I wanted her to get one of these fancy sports watches, a Garmin. I love it. I have a Garmin. It's a great watch. It's a training watch. It's good for lots of things. And she kept saying, no, okay, I'll get it, but I really want an Apple Watch. And then she was like, but they're really expensive. I'm like, so what? Let's just buy the Apple Watch. She goes, no, I'll get the Garmin. So I got her this Garmin, and I knew she was going to hate it. It had like the music on it and everything, things I never would have gotten, but I got it for her anyway, and she probably wore it 3 times. And then
Well,
it
that's too
sat
hard.
in a box for the next 2 years, and finally I said, "We're set." She bought the Apple Watch, by the way. So my all is to simply say is, you don't know what treasures are out there that someone bought thinking they would. Exercise equipment's a perfect example of that. People buy exercise equipment all the time and they
Yep, like
never
treadmills.
use it. Yeah, treadmills, like brand new treadmills. Get yourself.
I
if
only
you're-
bring that up because I sold a treadmill for you like 3
That's
months
true.
back.
She bought a treadmill. Now she wants to get a standing treadmill where she gets on and like just stands in place while she works. That
Never
I
get
think
the Apple
she'll
brand
use.
this time. Make sure you
Yeah,
go with the Apple brand.
I'm
this
going
time.
high end. No messing around on this. But my point is, there's probably some great deals to be had if you want to find the people that, especially right after, like maybe in February. I'm imagining February is a lot of good exercise equipment.
Yeah, because people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose some weight. I'm gonna be healthy."
I'm gonna get
January,
strapped.
they got their annual resolutions. They get 3 weeks into it, and then they got this big thing they're staring at in their house. And they're like, "Ugh, what have I done?"
Exactly.
Get this out of
All right.
here.
Well, that's good for us. For those of us in the secondary market merchant world. Hi, see what I
right.
did there?
Yes.
So,
you.
all right, Matt. So enough of that banter and nonsense. What are we going to talk about today? What'd you sell, and what do we want to talk about on the show today?
So, alternatively, from the typical format of what we've been doing, and I hope that what we're about to do today continues and we do it more, but we're actually going to answer some questions from a particular listener that emailed us and said, "Hey, I'm kind of new to the reselling world, and I'd like to know how you do this or that." And so I thought, we're going to do a whole episode and try to give this is why we do it in the first place. And so we just kind of come up with things that we think you might want to hear and you might want to know. But now we have an opportunity to, at least for one person, directly answer some questions. But I think it will apply for other people as well. So we're going to go to an email. Shout out to Carolyn out there.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Carolyn in Duluth.
reaching
She might
out.
be in Duluth. I don't know where she is.
Yeah,
but
Akron, Ohio. We
Yeah,
don't know.
sure.
Cincinnati.
Go Zips.
We don't know.
yeah.
But she's reached out. So you know what, Carolyn? Here you go. Here you go. We're going to answer these
Here's
questions.
your day. All right, so Carolyn sent us this great email. We've gotten other emails. Shout out to Ben in Bangalore. I feel like that's an onomatopoeia. People
That's
that are emailing us and just, hey, keep up the good work type stuff. And those of you that are subscribing, it's really, really cool to see, Matt and I work pretty hard to do a lot of different things. And in part of our core is being, in a sense, creators, artists. And so creating something that people can actually appreciate and use is really, really awesome. So obviously keep the emails coming. This is from Carolyn, and I'm just going to read the email through, and then we're going to talk about it. Some of the stuff we've already talked about. Matt's going to kind of reference things, but we'll start with, hi, I have become a loyal follower. Thank you. Very helpful tutorials. Will you cover the details about your process decision-making on pricing, selling, and listing? I'm a new seller, only on eBay so far, so all these questions revolve around eBay selling. So let's start there, Matt. How do we come up with the process or decision for pricing, selling, or listing? And I know that's a lot.
Yeah, pricing. We'll start with that. Pricing. Now, big disclaimer before I start. I'm going to tell you what I do now. What I do now is different than what I did when I started because I feel like I've learned some things. Also, my business has changed. This is a dynamic world, and so it's not a linear thing. I'm trying to make changes all the time to increase my business. I'm also not saying that what I'm doing is the optimal way to do it. It's what works for me best right now, based on the size of my business and my situation. So if you can glean some helpful information, wonderful. If you have a better way, send us an email. Let me know. I want to know if you have a better way, So
yeah,
as far as-
before you do that, Matt, I want to interject something really quick. One of the great things for those of us that are in the Reddit, by the way, Reddit just IPO'd, so it's kind of cool. I love Reddit. I know you get on Reddit. Reddit is I think, one of the purest communities for people. In some places, it could get really bad, but if you're in the right subreddit, there are people asking questions. One thing I love about it is people are saying, "Hey, I don't know how to do X," and that's sort of we're the subreddit for resellers, if you will. So people are going to ask questions. So again, but you take with a grain of salt. We all trust Rusty. He's the king of Western North Carolina, and he's a great reseller. But again, it's up to everybody's kind of make their own choice. But so back to what you were saying, Matt. Sorry to interrupt. Pricing.
Not at all. Pricing, it has mostly to do with what I paid for it, which is kind of common sense, right? but also what they are currently selling for. So if I go out and I find an item, the first thing I'm going to do before I ever buy it is I get out my phone and I research on Google or Etsy or eBay, and I figure out what it looks like they're selling for right now, if I can find it. So I have a baseline of what I know, or a range from highest and lowest, middle ground there. What do I think I can sell this for? Then I look at the price. Well, obviously the price has to be under what I can sell it for. Not only does it have to be under, I have to know that after I sell it and I eat the eBay fees and I hold money back for the taxes I'm going to owe on it, and I factor in the shipping cost, right? All of that, I still want to make usually at least 10 times my expense. So if I have a piece of costume jewelry, it's $3. I look it up. It's selling for $10 to $15. I'm not buying that item.
Wow.
If it's selling for $20, I'm not buying that item. If it sells for around 25 to 30 or above, I'll buy that item, because after I take out my expenses and after I, take out the fees are taken out and I ship that thing, I'm still putting, $15 to $20, probably $20 in my pocket. And so a $3 expense to get $20 net, I'll do that. Now that net to me is obviously not 10 times, but I mean the overall sale. I want to take that. So that's for cheaper items. I price it that way. For more expensive items, I don't have to make a 10x. Like I don't have to. If I'm going to spend $100, I'm not expecting to get 1,000, right? So it changes as the tiers go up, and I don't have a specific, rubric or table that I operate off of necessarily. I kind of go with what's going on with my business right now. Do I think it'll sell quickly? Or that's the other thing. This is a complicated answer. Is it going to sell in a week? Is it going to take me 6 months? So if there's an instrument that I can buy for $1,000 and I know that I'll sell it and make $1,000, I'll double my money. $1,000 is a big profit for one sale, one item.
Right.
But I want that to sell in 30 days, no more. I don't want to float $1,000 for 6 months, because you know how much I could buy and sell for items that are $3 to $5 with $1,000. I would make a lot more money using it that way. So the question is, I'm comparing to other options. So my pricing, I want on cheaper items, I need to get 10 times my money. As the price increases, I need to know that I'm selling it quickly, and I need to know that I'm going to at least double my money. So $50, I need to bring $100 in, that kind of thing, and up from there. But I don't want to float large amounts of cash for large amounts of time, because there's always items to buy. I buy things every week. There's always inventory out there available for me, so it has to make sense in that regard. That's the pricing.
So how do you know how long? I mean, is it just experience that tells you how long it's going to take to sell it, or are you looking it up on eBay? How do you know?
Yeah, so on eBay, I mean, you can look at things that have sold within the last 90 days, and you can look at each listing and see, was it a buy it? Did someone buy it as a buy it now? Did they buy it at the price that the buy it now was listed at, or did that seller accept a best offer? Meaning it was at this price, $100, and the way you see that is that there's a sale, and then the $100 will have a line through it. It sold. The reason there's a line through it is to say it didn't sell for $100, but it did sell, which means there was an interaction between buyer and seller, where either the seller sent an offer that the buyer accepted, or the buyer sent an offer that the seller accepted. But it was less than that. How much less? We don't know, because eBay doesn't show us that. But if it's an auction and it's sold, you'll see the number of bids. You can even see the number of bidders. So if most items I'm looking at are selling, and a lot of them are auction and they're selling in a week, I don't know if that was the first cycle, right? They might have had that listed 3 or 4 times on auction. But if I see that there's 3 or 4 or more bidders and there's multiple bids, then clearly there's a demand for that. Multiple people are wanting this item. Multiple people attempted to buy that item. Only one got it. But that's kind of how I look at it. So now, am I going to list that as a buy it now or as an auction myself? Again, it depends on what's going on in my business at the time. But usually, I send things on auction. I would say anything that's like $100 or less in value, I send on auction first. I do one cycle. I'm hoping that I sell it in the first week. If it doesn't sell in the first cycle, I then increase the price by 20 or 30%, and I put it up as a buy it now. You'd be surprised how many times I let something run for $100 on auction and it doesn't sell. I then immediately put it up at $150 at buy it now, and someone buys it.
Wow.
They could have bought it for $50 less the day before.
Is that because people just don't see it, or is it just you're creating this sort of need in the item?
Some of it is because people follow auctions.
Mm.
Some people are following auctions and they're looking to try to get a deal. Other people don't mess with auctions at all. They want, when they find the thing they want to be able to buy it right then. They don't want to wait for 4 days and
Ah,
22 hours to get it. So
gotcha.
sometimes people there's different types of buyers. Also, why did the buyer buy it the next day? Well, maybe they just happened to get on that day and they hadn't been on in the last week. So my buyer just wasn't around
Yeah.
for that
Or they
item.
never
That's
look at
another thing.
auctions, so they would only be
Right.
looking for that item. So that kind of leads us to Carolyn's last point of that three-part question about how you list something, which you sort of touched on. Like when you're listing things, then it sounds like there's a lot of nuance in how you list.
There is. And again, I don't have tried and true rules. The way I list today might be a little bit different tomorrow because I'm looking at my bank account, how much money is in there, what's coming up that I want to pull money in for, or am I doing well and I'm not needing that money to come in this week. If I have gold jewelry, I'm not usually running that at auction. I know because it's there's sort of a baseline for value because gold and silver, for example, have a daily and multiple times a day fluctuation in the value of that actual metal based on its weight. So if I have a bunch of gold and it weighs 20 some grams, I can multiply that times the gram weight of that purity of gold. And that day I know this is how much this weighs or this is worth per weight. So what I do, I know that the buyers are going to want that for 10 to 15, in some cases 20% below spot, if I'm willing to sell it for just the spot weight value. So I can throw that up. I know the calculation. I can pull that buyer in. I have gold buyers now that follow my store. So anytime I list something, immediately they're sending me offers or they're buying it quickly because they've bought from me before and they trust that I'm going to send them what I'm trying to represent. So I usually I list at auction. I list it buy it now. Higher value things, I do a buy it now. I'll wait for the right price. Lower value things, or if I'm not exactly sure what the range is, I'll let the market dictate that. I'll put it up at auction. I'm not too worried. Also, if I have bought an item and I've already got my money back, let's say I buy a whole lot of things and I've already sold 3 or 4 things, got all my money back, and I've got 80 items, I'm not messing around like letting those sit. Like I'll just run them at auction. I want to move it out, get that money in.
Right.
I have no cost of goods left, so I'm okay if it sells for $2 or $3 less than the average because that means I got the sale, not the competitors. They bought my item and I got the money.
Right. Well, this sort of goes that you kind of already answered Carolyn's next question, which was when do you decide to post something for buy now and allow offers or auction? And it sounds like there's a lot of nuance to that. So is there a way that you can explain that in an easy form?
For buy it nows, I'll give you these parameters. I always put it at about 20 or 30% above what it's typically selling for. And the reason for that is if a person buys it at that cost, then I got a sale that was ahead of the curve. I got more money than the average person did. The other thing is if people start to watch that item, I will send them an offer for 20% less than I have it, to hoping that I can pull them in. I still got it sold at roughly the average or slightly above, but because I took the initiative, I was able to make that sale happen. Vice versa, if someone sends me an offer for lower than that, because I've already pumped it up, I have the ability to lower the price and sell it to them. They feel like they got a deal because they asked and they got what they asked for, and I got the sale. So that's buy it nows. I always have a little bit high. I let them sit. I always send offers to people who watch. As far as auctions are concerned, the tip I would give you has more to do with the timing of it and less to do about the price, because the price completely varies based on the item that you're selling and what they're selling for. But I tend to list my auctions in the evening time, somewhere between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., and I try to do so on like Friday, Saturday, or Sunday evenings, because if it's a 7-day auction, those auctions will end on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. The reason that's important is, number one, it's in the evening, so people are typically at home, or they have more time because it's a weekend to be on eBay. And secondarily, it's not a work day, so they're home, they're not at work. It's in the evening where if they have kids, the kids are maybe in bed, or the rest of the work for the day is done. They're sitting down. The point is I'm going to capture more potential buyers during that time. Now, I do that, and I have to wait because, I get up early and I'm working. Even today, I had 50 some items in the store that I wanted to run an auction, and I wanted to do it, and I had to stop myself and remind myself, no, you need to wait till tonight, or you need to wait for a couple of days and do it. I'm not saying just wait till the weekend, but if you're going to do it during the week, do it in the evening. Because if I run that thing to end at 8:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, that's 4:30 in the morning in California. I have completely wiped out all of my potential West Coast buyers because of the timing of that. So it doesn't make sense for me to do it. I want to have a catchment of all potential people in our country, at least, whenever I run that.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. What a great tip. I would never have thought about like when the auction ended, but it's kind of true. If you want to make that final bid, you're probably not doing it if you're snoring at 4 in the morning in Anaheim, California. So
when I list a buy it now, I list it as early as I can, because the sooner I get it available, the sooner I'm catching people who may want to buy it. So I can do that anytime. But for auctions, I wait because they're buying in real time, and I know what time it is in California or in Mountain Time. So that's why I do that.
All right. So you kind of already touched on this, but it's worth going into. What is your approach for reducing your listed price? It says, Carolyn said, I heard you say to bring the price down incrementally. Do you do this, or evaluate whether you do this or not weekly, or how do you do it?
I did this even this morning. So the other thing I do typically once to twice a week is I take everything in my store down, and we've talked about this on a previous episode. I delist it, and then I can do this for 200 at a time. I will sell a similar item. I don't hit the relist button. I sell similar, because when I sell similar, it copies it exactly. It assigns it a new number. So when it drops into eBay, it is at the top of the queue, and anybody who's following the search queries for that particular item, it's gonna pop up and show them, hey, new items are available. Well, it's actually not new. It's been here for 2 months, but maybe you'll want to buy it now that you're seeing it. Maybe you didn't see it before because it was lost in the queue. So I do that, and then whenever I go to sell and to list these items, whatever price I list it at, I'll let it run for at least one 7-day cycle on auction, or I'll let it sit for about 30 days as a buy it now. So buy it now is I let sit for a month. Auctions, you can do 7 or 10-day or 5-day auctions. I typically do 7-day auctions. Once it doesn't sell, it's an ended item, I will, or when I've delisted and I'm selling similar, I go through and I just sort of dropping things by about, if they're $100 or more, I'm dropping it by about $10 at a time. It depends on what the overall value of that is, what percentage it is, but I don't just cut 5% or whatever. I just sort of look at it, I eyeball it, I drop it $10, $15. I don't want to drop it heavily because I might miss out on some money, but if I do it incrementally, then I'm just going to keep lowering it till I find that right buyer at that right price, and I have not given up too much, and I did get the sale. So I just do that. I'll do a cycle. I'll let it sit for a couple weeks to a month. I'll bring it down. I'll drop it by 10 or 15 bucks. I'll pop it back up. And that especially is easy if I've run an auction, I have a buy it now and I'm already at 20 or 30% above. If that strategy's not working for me, then I just keep lowering it until I get to about the level of the average sale of that item, and then I let it sit. If it sits for 6 months and it's not even selling at that, the chances are that I've already got my money back on that, or I'm probably okay getting rid of that at the average or slightly below average, just get the money back. So again, I'll just start lowering it until I get it. But for like cheaper items, if I can't sell it at the average, I drop it to 20, 30% below the average, I still can't sell it, I pack that stuff up and I take it to a local thrift store and I donate it. That was just a miss. That was just like a bad call. The market changed. I made a bad choice. It came in a lot, and I would never have bought that on its own. That happens to me all the time. I buy a lot. I make my money back. I'm going to sell some things, but there are 10, 15% of things in there that really don't have much value. Probably should have just donated in the beginning, but I went ahead and tried to sell it. It's not selling. I'm going to give that away. I'm going to donate that.
Yeah, it is really more of a marathon than a sprint, for sure, in this business.
Yes.
Okay. So Carolyn asked this interesting. We've not talked about this at all on the show because I know you don't do a whole ton of stuff internationally. Which says, when and for what items do you decide to sell internationally?
I will sell anything internationally unless it's really heavy. So I would say stuff that's going to be 20 pounds or more, I don't try to ship that internationally. The chances that that's going to get damaged or something's going to happen is just too great. Anything that's I will sell like breakable things internationally as long as they're small. And the reason for that is that eBay has, and I sell primarily on eBay for those who don't know, they have an international kind of selling thing where if you sell something, you actually ship it to an eBay warehouse where eBay workers will take that out, examine it, repackage it, whatever they need to do to get it to the right place. And there are some protections for you. If it ends up something happens, they kind of are more like dealing with that and covering that than you have to. And that's something you can either opt into or opt out of. For probably the first 2.5 years of my eBay business, I didn't use that at all. I sold nothing internationally. Now I've set my stores up to allow that. I've not had a single issue since I started, luckily, but I have to say I'm not selling a bunch of stuff internationally. I do have a good amount of international buyers from countries like China, for example, but most of the time they have some sort of like, I don't know if they're renting a storage unit or they have these things, some sort of setup in like New England and like Oregon and Californian coast where there's some sort of American address it's sent to, and then they have some thing set up from that point forward to get it to them across the ocean. I don't know what that is, but...
Well, it's a lot cheaper to ship things from America to China than it is from China. All those, if anybody that's ever lived on any of the coasts, you see those giant cargo, those, a lot of times they'll turn them into restaurants now or houses, right? Those cargo containers.
Yeah, yes.
Those cargo containers come from China full of goods. They go back to China empty most of the time. They used to go back with our trash, but China stopped taking it. So it's actually less expensive to ship to China. Now, I can't speak to anywhere else, but because of that. So I'm assuming that's probably why they do that warehousing in California, Oregon, or somewhere on the coast, because it's actually, they could probably work a pretty good deal on it. But it doesn't help us,
probably
but
buy
that's
a lot.
What it is.
They probably have an arrangement where they can buy a lot. They can fit a lot in one container. If the container was coming back empty, then now it doesn't matter. Like, it's coming back anyways. Like, put some stuff in it. They probably pay a cheap amount for a large amount of freight.
Right.
So...
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're getting close on time. We're going to answer one more question.
Great.
And this is, we've sort of talked about this, and then Carolyn, we'll catch up the other ones as we go on in the show. Obviously, feel free to email us again. But the last question is, will you please cover the subject of when to determine when to charge shipping or when to offer free shipping? Now, I know we've not talked about this on the show because I was like, I have no idea. I hope Matt does.
The answer, as far as I can tell, is that it doesn't matter for you, meaning there is no advantage necessarily, monetarily speaking, to give free shipping or to charge shipping, because you can do one of two things. You can either charge no shipping, so free shipping, but you're building in your expected shipping costs into the price, so they're going to pay it, or you can do calculated shipping so that like just whatever zip code they're coming from, the system will essentially calculate what the cost will be from your area, or you can set a flat rate. If I set a flat rate, like I make the price of the item smaller, or calculated. If I do free shipping, I build that in. I'm not out the money. They're still going to be paying me the money. So it doesn't matter. The other reason it doesn't matter is that, and some people out there may not know this, eBay charges a 13.5% fee on the sale of an item. So if it sells for $100, $13.5 of that is going, of that sale is going to go. If you do an item that's $100 free shipping, it's 13.5% of that. If you do $90 with $10 shipping, it's still 13.5% of that $100. They charge their percentage on the shipping cost as well, because they know that if you do free shipping and build it in, like, they don't want to lose a piece by you trying to manipulate the system and game the system. So it doesn't matter for you. You're going to pay a percentage on the shipping or on the overall cost, even if it's equivalent. The only reason you might do one tactic or strategy over another is if you have researched that item to see the sales, and you notice that the majority of those sales of that item that other people have sold have been free shipping, then maybe it makes sense for you to do free shipping and build it in, because that seems to be the trend from the buyers. If most people are selling something, a little bit lower and charging shipping, and people are willing to pay for that shipping, then you can go that way. To be safe, I usually just set up a calculated shipping, which means I don't set a shipping rate. I set the rate of the price of the item based on my needs and what I think I can get the buyer to buy. And then they will know on their end by looking at it based on the zip code and the computer system what it'll be. You're not setting it, but whenever it sells, it pops up and it shows you how much they paid for shipping. I like that on a lot of items because it saves me time too. I don't have to research. I don't have to weigh it and figure out, okay, like, what's this going to be? I also happen to operate a business where 90% of my items weigh a pound or less, and they fit in one of like 2 or 3 small containers. And so I always know in my head the maximum amount of what shipping is going to cost. So it's very easy for me to build that in and do free shipping if I want, or it's negligible. It's like $1 or $2 range difference between a lot of the things, which that's not going to hurt my business, if I get it wrong by 75 cents or something.
Right. Well, once again, Matt, a wealth of knowledge and information. I'm literally trying to parse through my head all the things that we talked about today. But first and foremost, we'd like to thank again Carolyn from Topeka, wherever you are, Carolyn. We'd like to thank you.
Sheboygan,
we wish you,
Ohio.
Sheboygan. We wish you the best of luck in your selling. For those of you that are out there, again, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. It's really cool to see the growth and the people. Tell a friend, get on a subreddit about reselling, tell a friend about the What Sold podcast, also the Rusty Reseller channel and all the different channels that we have. We really love doing this. It's super fun. But remember to like, follow, subscribe, do all those things. Any last words, Matt, for Carolyn or anyone else out there?
Good luck. There's a lot of these things you're going to find it's kind of a gray area. Anyone who claims that they know the best practice and you should do this, you just be wary of. It's, we do our best. It changes. If I were to get on in a year, I might have different answers for you, but that seems to work for me right now. Don't be afraid. It can be good. Good luck to you.
Great. Well, we'll be back with a new episode on Tuesday or whenever you're listening, but have a great rest of your week. Take care.